Morning, this is Kamera. We're on day number 50, numbers 18 through 20. Yesterday, we discussed uh, we saw that the Lord got rid of a few troublemakers. Today's reading starts off with the duties of continued duties or responsibilities, more like it, of the Levi tribe. Within the Levi tribe, you have Aaron and his sons, who are the true descendants of the priesthood. So the high priest and the priests are will always be descendants of Aaron. The other portion of the tribe of Levi are the assistants to the priests. Okay, so their job is to assist Aaron's descendants and maintaining the tabernacle and service unto the Lord. So this is the thing. It covers more of their responsibility, how they are responsible for the Levites, the priests, how they're responsible for the making sure that the tabernacle is secure, and are responsible for any offenses toward the tabernacle. So if someone offends the tabernacle, then it is up to the Levites to take care of the situation. If they allow someone, then they could die along with the person who they're allowed to offend. When it comes to these sacred objects, though, Aaron descendants are the ones who's responsible for that. If they allow someone to offend those, then they could die. So the sanctuary is all the Levites, as far as the priests and the Levites. They're responsible for that. But when it comes to the holy the sacred objects, then the priests are mainly responsible. But if they allow anyone to offend, get too near, then they could die along with the person who offends. So yeah, that's where the Levite has a great responsibility. And this is the thing. We also discussed the how the Levites are compensated for their service to God. Now, when they go to the promised land, the lands that are promised to the children of Israel will be divided among 11 tribes. The Levites do not get a portion of that land. They do not get a share. Their gift is to be of service for the Lord. But how are they compensated? Their compensation is that portion that the children of Israel dedicate to God. Okay? So, the children of Israel, they're supposed to bring the 10th, their best. They're supposed to bring the first of a 10th, their tithe, which could be oil, which is going to be the best oils, the best wines, their guilt offerings and that so forth. So when it comes to the cattle, the sheep and the goats, then the blood, the fat, all that's going to be offered unto the Lord. But the meats, they are given to the Levites to eat. And so, that's their portion. That portion that the children of Israel are to give to the Lord. Those, once they've sacrificed the part that goes to God, then their portion is the best as well. Whatever that is not sacrificed to God, but they get that other portion. They get that other portion. And you have to be ceremonial clean in order to eat it. And it's only toward those ceremonial family members, clean family members. So, you think about that thing today, how people, they hate to give. We can hate to give offering. We can hate to give tithe. But God tells us to give tithes and offering. And then when we give tithe, the portion that belongs to God, we get so involved in how the leaders are using God's finances. And this is the thing, guys, you have to understand, when you offer to God, that's between you and God. How the people who are in charge of God's offering, how they treat it, is between them and God. And God said not to treat it wrong, how not to treat it unholy. So if they do something that is not pleasing to God, that's between them. Don't worry about what they do. It's not your money. You feel that it's your money. You give it to the church. You don't like how they're handling your money. No, that's God's portion. You're giving God his portion that is rightly deserving to him. And then once you give it to God, how they treat God's portion, then that's between them and God. So this is a personable thing. I always tell people all that. I don't get mad at people who don't pay their tithe. No, that's between them and God. That is a faith journey, a faith walk. If you don't believe what the word said, what God says, and you don't believe that he'll deliver when you do what he says, then you're not going to give. If you're so concerned about how they spend God's money, you're missing the whole point. Okay, so I always say it is a faith thing. Giving tithe, giving offering is a faith thing, and that is between you and God. Now it is, God do expect for us to give that 10%. Again, that's between you and God. I'm not going to get mad at you for you not believing, you not being obedient. That's between you and God. And if I do, this is my opinion, I do believe that those people who feel that they have the right to get upset about a person not paying their tithe and their offering, I believe that they're in error. Yeah, let them know they're wrong. Let them know what God says, but there shouldn't be no pressure involved. That's between them and God, because that is your faith walk as well. So, yeah, but that's just my opinion on that. To me, it's a faith thing. And this relationship we have with God is a faith thing. But how are you going to know? How are you going to know if what God says is true? If you don't try him. He says, prove him. And when you prove him, when you give him of his, everything else, you leave it in his hands. There shouldn't be no words about anything as far as your bills, unless you created a bill that you knew was unwise, and now you forgot you want God to create this miracle that you created the problem of. So, but when it comes to those things that you need and you want, you just, allow God to prove himself, okay, in those things. He knows what we want. He knows what he needs. And so that portion that is given to God, the sin offering, the guilt offering, all those offerings, the cattle, all of that, those are presented to God. The monies, because the firstborn, there's also a shekel or a few shekels given as an offering to the Lord. Those go to the priests. Okay? So, and they are responsible for treating it the correct way as well, or how God leads them to. But there's their portion. They don't get the land. So their portion is that. The next thing is defilements and purifications. They talked about how you are defiled. And when you are defiled, like if someone touches a dead person or what have you, how they're unclean, they need to wash those things, that their cells and sprinkle water, what have you, to purify themselves. They spend time with talking about that. Another thing is Moses went through a trial with the children, another trial of the children of Israel, where they're upset because there's no water. And they're saying how, there's no promised land and we should have stayed in Egypt. They're complaining, they're murmuring again. And so Moses goes to God about that. And God tells Moses to speak to the rock. And so Moses, he goes back. Moses is very frustrated. The word of God says that Moses hit the rock instead of speaking the rock. And the word says that the Lord told Moses that he will not enter into the promised land because he did not speak to the rock as he was instructed. He actually hit the rock and the water gushed out. And the word says that because Moses didn't trust God enough to demonstrate God's holiness, that is why he's not entering it. So, we could say it was frustration, but the word says he didn't trust him enough to speak to it. So you can read into that as much as you want. Try to understand why Moses hit it and didn't speak. But God does look at a deeper reason, and that is why he does what he does or allows certain things to happen. He looks at the heart. He looks at the mind. He also looks at our actions. But that intentions, that true intention is what matters. And he says that Moses didn't trust him enough to speak to the rock, to demonstrate God's holiness. And yeah, I'm sure he was frustrated. Children of Israel, I mean, complaining weighs you down. You know, you're being obedient to God and people are just complaining and have you. It weighs you down. And so in that case right there, I'm sure Moses was very frustrated. But the consequences is even he, after everything he's gone through, will not be one of the ones who will be entering into the promised land. The next thing is, children of Israel needed to pass through Edom. Back to let me just say one more thing about the frustration, guys. We have to make sure that we stay focused on God. Don't let it get to the point where you're so frustrated that you just do stuff for God halfway. Don't get to that point. If it gets to that point, know where your mind is, know where your heart is, know where your intentions are. Whatever you do, don't just do it automatically. Make a conscious effort to give God your best service and whatever you give him. And if we get to that point, and when we get to those points, there are times that we just don't want to get into it. The Bible says don't get tired or weary in doing good things. So, okay, Lord, I'm tired, I'm weary, I just don't want to do it. So I need you to help me, because God is an understandable God. So, Lord, I need you to help me. I need you to give me the zeal. I need you to give me the mind. Know where your mind is. Know where your heart is. Know why you're doing what you're doing. We're human. We have feelings. We get our feelings hurt. We get tired. Sometimes we feel like, okay, it's not worth it. Oh my God, it's draining. Bring God into that thing. Lord, help me. Help me, strengthen me. I want to please you, Lord. So I need you to give me the zeal. My pastor say, ask God for zeal. I looked up zeal the first time she said zeal, just to make sure I had the right enthusiasm. So I asked God for enthusiasm to do his will. And so, yeah, I use that nowadays still, right now, asking for zeal whenever I need it, or a mind and a heart too. But know where you are. And sometimes we feel good just not going, or just doing, because we just fed up or what have you. But when you want to do God's will, and you know the tricks of Satan, you know how you can get discouraged. So like Moses probably got frustrated. And normally he goes to God about certain issues when he's frustrated or whatever. Know where you are and just don't do it halfway, and ask God to help you. And so the next thing was that, so the people complained. He was upset. He hit the rock instead of speaking to it. The next thing is, while the children of Israel were traveling through, they wanted to go through this land of Edom. And so they did the respectful thing, and they talked to the king of Edom and said, would you please allow us to go through? We promise we won't trample your land. We won't even drink your water. And if our cattle even drink a little of your water, we will pay you. And so the king of Edom said no. The king of Edom said, no, these are God's chosen people. God was in the midst of them, and they were told no. And I look at that situation, and I'm like, yeah, guys, when God tells us to do something, we're not going to always receive the yeses. So they had to go a different route. Isn't that something, though? That's something to keep in mind with our journey. It's not going to always be yes, yes, yes. It's not going to always be. And they were doing what God told them to do. And God was right there with them. They had to go a whole different route. Something to think about, y'all. And so the last thing, Aaron dies. Yes, Aaron dies. And so remember, Aaron was the high priest. And so Aaron, Moses, and I think it was Eliezer, Aaron's son, they all go to Mount Hor. And the mantle is now passed to Eliezer to be the high priest. And remember, the high priest is only given to Aaron's descendants. So when Eliezer dies, then one of his sons get high priestess. But for now, Aaron is no more. Aaron started this journey with Moses. Yeah, he wasn't always my favorite person either. You guys already know how I feel about that situation. But he dies, and now his son takes over the mantle. And so now Eliezer is now the high priest. And when the tribe notices that there's only two who came down from the mountain, Moses and Eliezer, they mourn for Aaron for 30 days. Yeah. So Aaron's no more, guys. It's just Moses now. And Eliezer. So, that was day number 50. Numbers chapter 18 through 20. And day 50, guys, we're doing our thing. Yeah, sometimes I wear this hoodie because after the workout, I'm kind of cold. So I'll wear this hoodie. So that's why sometimes you guys see me with a hoodie. Remember, I wake up in the morning at 4:45, read my word, get dressed, go to the gym, And when I leave the gym, I come straight here to do the video. And so I'm cold, and I throw on a jacket. So guys, it's day 50. Keep it up. You guys are doing great. We're on day number 50. Numbers chapter 18 through 20. You guys have a God-filled blessed day, okay?